Hi guys, today we are playing with the new Ambient Lighting Edit Unlocked Dragon Face Palette from Hourglass. I actually had to read that because it's quite a mouthful to say. I only ordered the one palette from the collection this year. I really wanted the medium one as well. I think it's the Evil Eye palette, but I really couldn't fit that into my budget, being almost €100 for a face palette. I really wanted the jellyfish palette from last year, and by the time I realized I really wanted it, it was too late. It was sold out everywhere and I couldn't buy it. I did, however, buy the elephant palette the year before, and I've really been loving this face palette. It's the, I don't know if you can see the colors there. It's the only Hourglass face palette that I have so far. Well, up to now. I have the dragon one now as well. And I was really looking forward to this dragon palette because I do know the shades are a bit different in there from this one. I do know they're rebranding this one this year. I'll just put something on the screen for it. But they are reselling it as part of the holiday collection with the dragon and the evil eye and the lotus flower one this year. So I did reckon that I'll do the elephant palette on the one side and the dragon palette on the other side. I'll just do it like I normally would do my everyday face makeup, and then I can compare the shades and just show you the differences on the face. I'll include some swatches for them as well, so that we can properly compare the two. So if you're interested in buying either the rebranded elephant one or the dragon palette, then you can just compare these two. And maybe if you already have the elephant palette, you can also decide whether it's worth it to buy the dragon palette as well. I'm wearing a light layer of the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place in the color Warm Vanilla 2W. I did get this mini translucent powder with the Hourglass palette today, so I just reckoned I'll set my face with that. The powders that are in these Hourglass palettes are not setting powders. They are intended to go over your face makeup afterwards. So they're not really designed to keep your foundation in place. So that's why I'm going in with the setting powder first. Such a cute little mini powder. When I open it up, it just has like the little holes and an H shape there and a little sticker over the holes. I'm just tapping some into the lid. I'm just taking a big brush and just setting all over. I didn't tap it off enough. I just want to set that face makeup. I already have some Radiant Creamy Concealer from NARS under the eyes. This is in the color Light 22 Nougatine, just a light layer. I just want to set that with a smaller brush, just softly. I don't like adding too much powder under my eyes because I have very dry under eyes, so you can see it very quickly when I add too much. Just a light wipe. It's a very nice translucent powder. It's very lightweight and it doesn't really dry my under eyes a lot, so it's good. Now let's open this bad boy. Got a little box inside, just a protective box. That's what the palette looks like. Oh, it's beautiful. And now the moment I've been waiting for. Okay, let's see those colors. Oh, I'm so excited to use this. Okay, there's the palette side by side next to the elephant palette. I'm excited that the finishing powders are lighter than this one, because I did want one that has a bit of a more of a highlight in this. I really love the elephant palette, except the highlighter is just a teensy bit dark for me. I can get away with a very light layer of highlighter, but when I go too dark with it, it kind of starts leaving a cast on my cheek. I was going to go in with the elephant palette first, but I'm so excited to use this one. So I'm going to start off with this one. I'm just going to start off with this light color. This is the Dream Light Finishing Powder. It's the only powder that's not new in this entire collection. And it looks like it's the lightest of them all. And I'm just going to place that everywhere that I just want to brighten up a bit. Except I don't really want to go into this part in the inner corner under my eyes, because these do have a bit of a sheen to them, and I like keeping this part matte because the sheen kind of tends to enhance texture and doesn't really look flattering under the eye. Just going to basically just place it everywhere I want to lighten up a bit. Now the thing with the Hourglass palettes that I've noticed is the effect that it has. It's a lot more intense in real life than it is on camera. So it might not look like it has that big of an impact when you look at the video, but in real life it really gives such a beautiful natural glow to the skin. I'm just going to take a smaller blush brush for my bronzing today, and then I'm going to go in with that one. It's called Soft Bronze. It looks cooler in the pan than it does for the elephant palette, but it still pulls a little bit of warmth when you apply it. So it's still, even though it's a bit cooler, it's still a bronzer. It's not really, not what I would consider a contour shade, because contouring for me is really cool tone. I'm just going to place that everywhere that I place my bronzer normally. Just going to put some on the nose and just do some. I'm just going to use one of my P. Louise brushes, and then I'm going to go in with this mauve color. What's the color's name? Mauve Haze. It's the first time I'm using this brush, so I hope it takes the product. And I'm going to just place that a bit more to the back. This brush doesn't really look like it's taking a lot of product. My favorite blush brush is downstairs now. So let's just try this one. Okay, this Real Techniques one is taking a bit more product. That's really a pretty color. I kind of expected it to be a bit darker. It's still pretty. And I'm going to go into this Peach Fusion shade. I like putting my cooler blushes to the back, and then just on the apple of my cheek put the warmer blush shades. So what I usually do is I just place it at the lower outer corner of the apple of my cheek and just blend it upwards. This one has a pretty sheen to it. Let's just add some more for demo's sake. Now, something that I'm really excited about is the fact that this highlighter looks like it's a lot lighter than the one in the elephant palette. So I really think this might be something that I can pack on a bit more densely without having it leave a cast on my face. This highlighter here. The highlighter name is Sunlit Strobe. I'm just going to place that. Ooh. Ooh, I like that. It's It's not too intense, but it's pretty. Just gonna add that to the high points of my face. Bit on the nose. Cupid's bow. Ooh, I like that. Oh, and I don't have a cast at all. Don't know if you can see. I'm going to take this darker Divine Light finishing powder, just on a big fluffy brush. I'm just going to use that just to tie all these colors together. Let me sit a bit closer, see if I can show you how beautiful that makes the skin look in comparison to the side that has nothing on. So let me put on the Elephant palette. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what's on my eyes, it's nothing special. I just played with some of my homemade eyeshadows this morning, so I don't really have a palette that I can link for that. One thing I do like about the Elephant palette that the other palette doesn't have is the finishing powders are next to each other. And what I really like doing with this one is just swirl my brush in both of them and just do that as my finishing powder all over. I don't really use it to highlight any places on my face because the shades are a bit darker. So it's closer to my skin tone. So I just use it as an overall finishing powder at the end. So let's start off with the bronzer. The shade name is Lustrous Bronze Light Bronzer. Suddenly had a lot of activity in the house, so not 100% sure where I was, but I was about to apply the bronzer. I really like this bronzer, not for contouring. You can see it's a bit warmer than this one, but it's not as red warm. It's more of a yellow type of undertone, which suits my skin type better. I don't like the reddish cool tone bronzers because they look more like a blush on my skin, where these heat up my skin a bit. And this one kind of makes me feel a bit more bronze goddessy type of bronze. And to be honest, this one's been one of my favorite bronzers in my collection lately. I do have some Pat McGrath bronzers, and I have the Physician Formula bronzer that I really love, but this one is kind of, the shade in this one is my favorite. That being said, I can't really contour with it. You can see this one's got a bit more of a contouring shade. This one I need to have a separate contour when I apply this one. I'm going to go in with the same technique with the blush. I'm going to use the cool tone blush on the outer side and then go in with a warmer blush on the apples of the cheek. So this one is Radiant Rose. I'm just going to place that a bit higher than the bronzer and just give a bit of cool tone blush there on the high point of my cheeks. Sometimes when I'm in a hurry, I just swirl the two blushes together and just do an overall blush with that. And you can see this one has a bit more pigment than the mauvey one that I added on that side. Just wiping off most of the pigment on that because I'm using the same brush now. With this middle blush color, it's Coral Rose, Iridescent Coral. And I'm just placing that here on the apple of the cheek. On the outer side, you can see it just brings a bit of a warm glow to the apples of the cheek. And especially because the highlighter is so dark, just having that extra bit of glow really helps. This is the Metallic Strobe Powder Beaming Strobe Light Highlighter. So it has a bit more of a reflect than the one on this side. The metallic shades has a lot more shine to them. And I think that's why I can get away with a light layer of it. So I'm going to show you how I normally apply it. Just a soft light layer. And you can see just a soft layer kind of almost compares to this side. And if I don't apply it too heavy-handedly, then it looks fine on my face. But for the demo purposes, I'm just going to go in with another layer and show you how it looks when I really pack it on. It's a really beautiful shade, but the moment I turn my face, especially in the winters, it really just creates a fine cast on the cheek. And I don't experience that with this color at all. It's still pretty though. Then I'm just going to take my big brush and I'm going to swirl it in the two finishing powders. It's Dim Light and Soft Light is the names. I think this one is Dim Light and that one is Soft Light. I just realized you probably would want to see what the separate colors look like, so I'm going to use the lighter one just here on my forehead, just to blend everything together. And then with the yellow one, the Soft Light, I'm just going to blend everything on the rest of my face. Don't think you can really see a difference though. That's also why I just tend to go in with both, because that blended soft glowy effect that it leaves on the skin, especially if you use a matte foundation and you don't want to look dry and you want to look glowy but not wet and sweaty, but you do want that natural smooth glow. If you add this finishing powder over a matte foundation, it looks stunning because it gives your skin that filtered, flawless look without looking like you added a layer of matte foundation. So it still has that glowy, natural feel to it. I just realized I only have one lip highlighted. Just add some all over. And especially here you can see this side is lighter than that side. It's got more of a golden glow on that side. So if your skin tone is like a shade darker than mine, then this one would be perfect for you. Whereas if you have a lighter skin tone, then I'd probably recommend going with this one instead. Okay, so with the two palettes, there we have the proper comparison of the two sides. I think personally I still like my Elephant palette more. It's my favorite palette, except for the highlighter in this palette. I think I would get more use out of because it's a bit lighter and I can more easily just go heavy-handedly with it without having to worry about the cast. But I'll probably end up using this one in the winter and this one in the summer months and kind of get the balance of being able to use both. Just spraying a bit. Look how faded my all-nighter is already. It's almost finished. When I wear this makeup combination of my double wear along with this, my makeup lasts like 12 hours easily. And it still looks freshly applied. So I really love this combination, especially with the Hourglass palette. It really, the way the makeup looks right now, that's how it looks by the end of the day. If I wear it early to work, when I walk to work and it's summery and I get a bit of sweat, it doesn't even come off. It stays on, it stays perfect the whole day until I wash it off in the evening. So let me hop into swatches quick. I'll do them on the same arm. So I'll put the finishing powders next to each other and the blushes next to each other and the bronzers next to each other, and then at the end I'll put the highlighters, and then you can look at the swatch differences when they're a bit more intense and close to each other, and then you can really compare them from there. And there we go. So what do you guys think? Which one do you prefer? Do you like the elephant palette more, or do you like the dragon palette more? Or if you had to choose, which one would you buy? Or would you go for both? Or do you not think it's really worth spending that kind of money on? My thoughts on that, by the way, I don't normally like spending like almost 100 euros on a face palette. However, if you can afford it, I would highly, highly recommend at least having one face palette from Hourglass in your collection. It really, there's nothing that compares to it. There's nothing that gives you that same natural, beautiful, glowy look that these give. I would buy, especially this one, I would buy it 100 times over if this one ran out. So I really think it's worth investing if you can afford investing in at least one of these palettes. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!